Hello Wargaming, it's me Cam from TableTopBanter, and today I'm going to do a different kind of video. So, having gone through my subscriptions recently and just had a little watch on YouTube, a video by Vince Venturella. A lot of people will know him if you're into fantasy. I know he does a lot of Age of Sigmar and fantasy stuff, but he also does a lot of talk shows and thought-provoking videos. And he does a topic of the week, where he just picks a topic and he's like, hey, people on YouTube make a response video. Now I don't normally respond because it's not normally something I'm really close to, but this week he spoke about wargaming as a therapy, and this is something that's quite close to me. So what I will say now is, if you don't want to hear this kind of story about my life, then feel free to stop watching right now. I won't get too personal and I won't get too emotional about it, but it's something that I think is worth talking about because awareness is always a good thing. So, you've got 2 seconds from now to leave the video. Okay, so I'm going to start with, basically, I am diagnosed with clinical depression and anxiety, and I require medication to get through the day. Probably the best way of putting it. I've had recent increases as well. Over the last 4 months I've had to go up twice, which has been difficult because I thought I was making progress, but it has a funny way of working itself out. So I suffered with depression alone for about 1.5 years. So I didn't tell my parents, I didn't tell my friends, I didn't tell counsellors. I saw a counsellor and I told her a little bit, but not the full story. I kept it very much to myself because my thought process was people wouldn't want to hear about it, and ultimately that's not a good idea. So the topic of wargaming in therapy has become more recently something I've noticed, I suppose. So I have been on medication now for 1 year, like I said, with various strengths and stuff, and I do see a counsellor every couple of weeks, so that does a big part for helping. Hopefully more so now, as I've actually started taking new medication today. So that's a little off topic. Anyway, so those two things make a big difference. I also have a very supportive girlfriend who goes through similar things, so we do kind of get each other on that, which is fantastic for having someone to talk to about it and everything. But there are times when she's struggling and I'm struggling, and I know that it's better to put myself to one side and be supportive so she can recover quicker, because it's just kind of how I am. And that's when I need something else, just to spend an hour or two a night doing, just to clear my mind and draw me away from my thoughts. And that is where wargaming, and in particular the painting and modelling side of the hobby, has been so important for me. So I would say the best part of 75% of what keeps me going is in my girlfriend, medication, and counselling. But that last 25% is in the hobbying aspect of my life, and it's important. Maybe 20%, but it is important to me because it's something I've been doing for the last 8 months, 9 months, and I have noticed that through times of struggle, I have more often than not picked up a paintbrush, which is a lot better than some alternatives for someone who's clinically depressed. Now you might not see it, obviously, because obviously I take medication and stuff, and that does help level me out a little bit. But there are times when even then it's not quite enough. And I had a really difficult winter, actually. Being home again, where it all kicked off. So there's that kind of point of reference, and then being away from counselling, being away from my girlfriend, and my medication was not quite, I don't think, quite strong enough then. So I had a very difficult winter. And you can see by the number of videos I was putting out over winter that I was very involved in the hobby, and I do think that if I wasn't involved in hobbying, I would be a lot worse off. So this kind of video is sort of a two-pronged thing. First of all, I want to say how much wargaming does make a difference, and not just wargaming, but the community. I find playing the game is less therapeutic, but painting and modelling has been a big part of keeping me going, which is fantastic, and I love that. But another thing is the community. You certainly feel a sense of care from those around you when you're in such a tight-knit community, such a niche community. And I have found that over the last 9 months. People say kind things about your models, or they'll say, "Oh, good job, nice video, nice update," and it's the things like that, and that does, you know, okay, it's small, but it makes a big difference. It's often the little things that can make a difference. So I really, really like those things, and I love the community. And yes, Wargaming has made a massive difference. But the second part of this video is a nice opportunity to say how important I find it, and I think it is, that people should know about these things, about depression and anxiety, because it affects 1 in 4 in a classroom, which is kind of shocking when you think about it. You know, it's something people don't talk about very often. There's a stigma around it, and it can be really, really difficult opening up and talking about it. Obviously, where I've been dealing with it now for 2.5 years, I'm kind of more accustomed to it. I'm not too fussed talking about it. It's still difficult. It's still not something I love bringing up, and it's certainly not a conversation starter. But I think it's important to open up when you do suffer from the aforementioned conditions, because mental health isn't something to like just leave to one side. It's exactly the same as having a heart condition, but for your mind, essentially. That's kind of how you have to look at it, in my eyes anyway. So yeah, like I said, sorry if this isn't, I know it's not hugely wargaming related, and again, if it's a bit much for some people, I understand, and I do apologise. But it was an opportunity for me to A, respond to this video and something that's very close to me, and B, raise a little awareness, because at the end of the day, it's something that has impacted my life very greatly, and not in a good sense, over the last 2.5 years. And to think that if I can get one person from this video to talk about it, or one person from this video to consider it, or if they've got a friend who's doesn't seem himself and they ask, is everything okay, then that's perfect. Then this video has done its job. So yes, apologies for the rant there, or the ramble, but thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment below. Basically, what are your thoughts? Does wargaming impact your personal life in a positive way, as in how you are with yourself, as a therapy, or just do you find it keeps you going through the tougher days of work and of life, essentially? And yeah, thank you very much. Don't forget, please also share this video, because exposure to things like mental health problems is never a bad thing. It's only good in my eyes, as it can help sort of raise awareness. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. It's been me, Callum, from TableTopBanter. Don't forget, have fun.